But let me get my snack crackle pop together real quick.
Not your snack crackle pop. That's She got a whole goddamn snack bar. I can just imagine, even without even hearing it, just seeing it, I can imagine how much noise that's making right now. Like, Jesus Christ, this is is that bread? What is that? Are you making a sandwich? Oh my goodness. Lord have mercy.
All right, I'm ready. No, okay, so I just walked in from the gym, literally, and I'm starving. I'm doing a Kellie.
You're right. I'm like, okay, you're taking Kellie place.
But at least I was on time, okay?
This is true. This is true. All right. Well, let's get it started. Let's get it started. That should be the new Boom Shakalaka. Make somebody have to sing that whole little. All right.
Boom Shakalaka.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Worst Ones podcast. We are Preacher's Kids, and this is the place for Preacher's Kids who are bold enough to come and share their intimate stories of how they were judged based off of their parents' occupation. Does that sound pretty accurate?
Something like that.
Give or take. My name is Rudy Wilson. I am a PK. We got Janessa Rowland in the house. She's a PK. We got Terry Weezy in the building. He is a PK. And of course, Kellie Lee has found a way to wiggle her PK little ass up out of here. So she's not here today. But no, shout out to Kellie Lee. Janessa, how are you doing? In this season 3, episode 2. We are in season 3, meaning year 3. We have started year 3, episode 2. Wow. How do you feel? How are you? How's your mental?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm on this health kick, kind of, sort of. Well, I am. Let me not say that. I've done 3 workouts today. Today was probably my most intense day.
You did 3 workouts?
I did 3 workouts.
Why did you do 3 workouts?
Because, I'm just trying to whip it back into shape.
Are you meeting a deadline?
Yes, so I have a trip coming up in April.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
Yes, I will be going to Jamaica and Mexico. So I want to
Jamaica and Mexico. Okay.
And it's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's just ironic. In 2020, April 2020, yeah, I was supposed to go to Jamaica. And the pandemic hit like 2 weeks. It actually hit on my birthday. Everything shut down on my birthday. That's a whole nother story.
Okay.
And so when we planned this trip with a different group of friends, it happens to be the exact same departure date to Jamaica as 3 years ago. So when I did that trip, I did keto. And that's when I lost like 40 pounds. And I, bought a whole new wardrobe just for it to get canceled. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, I'm trying it kind of full circle, getting back in shape and going on this trip.
You ain't doing keto now, though.
No, I'm not.
I saw that bread. You can't have that bread.
In them chips.
Well, there's certain kind of chips you can have, but no, definitely not no bread.
This is not keto at all. But yeah, so I did 3 workouts today. Work's been going pretty good. School hasn't started back. So that's another reason why I can kind of work out more, because I don't have as much with school, but everything's going good.
Gotcha. Well, I'm happy for you. I'm glad you back out here in these gym streets.
I am.
You did, and I don't know if you said this or not, but you did 3 like different types of workouts, or it was all the.
So I did like abs, lower body, cardio this morning. Then I did an outdoor walk, and then I went to LA Fitness and just did a Zumba class.
Okay,
So,
gotcha. Zumba that's like what exactly? That's just dancing and exercising, or
pretty much. I like my lady. It's like, Caribbean, Latin music, Afro beats, a little twerk, a little ratchet. Just so it's just like a mix of all different stuff. I like it.
But I'm saying the movement itself is just everything is just about dancing and exercising. Okay, because I've always heard of Zumba, but I've never actually like been in a class. I just was trying to identify.
You should come. There are guys in my class.
Yeah, I mean, I believe there are guys that do. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just have never. I've done like spin classes. Spin classes, that's my shit.
I don't like spin.
Spin class.
It's the seats for me. Yeah. I can't do the seats.
Well, yeah. But that's why. But if you got somebody who gonna get you up and on the seat, like you only sit long enough to rest your leg, and then once the seat feel like it's sticking up your ass, you back standing up again.
But then you get to a point where you're so tired you can't lift yourself up, but you can't sit down either, and your shoes be stuck in them things.
Well, that's why you got to get the what's the name. Well, the last time I was doing the spin classes, this when I was in the military, and the gym there they provided like the little jelly things you could put on the seats.
On the seats, it's gonna have to be something.
So it ain't as bad because any bike seat, like sitting on the bike too long is terrible. Like it's just,
my personal bike that I have at home, I got a wider seat with like the memory foam because got a lot back there that needs to be cushioned. So
gotcha. Touche. Okay. Well, that's what's up. That's what's up. Terry Weezy, what's poppin'?
Oh, I'm just feeling bad because I've also gained 40 pounds over the last 2 years, and I'm not doing anything about it. So
there you go. So you quit all your workouts, your diets, or whatever you were doing. I know you were doing different.
Yeah, I think I'm the one that told Janessa about keto because I did the keto thing for a while and dropped like 30 pounds. Pandemic hit everybody differently. For me, it just made me lazy. That was it. I just stopped doing my workouts and slowly, surely started coming back up. And I was like, And I'm at the point right now where I'm like, I got to do something about this before it gets out of hand. But it's always, the hardest thing is always just getting started. It's that first step.
Yeah.
But I figure I'll take it because I'm moving soon, so I don't want to move all pudgy and gross. So.
Gotcha. I ain't mad at you.
Yeah, it's like you pack on some weight, so you get lazy and it makes you tired and you lose your energy, and because you don't have any energy, you don't want to work out. So it's one of those cycle things.
Yeah. I feel you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to say fuck it for a while,
I like the guy. I saw a guy one of these health guys on Instagram, and he's like, you keep waiting for inspiration. He's like, you keep waiting for energy and drive. He's like, no, that comes later. He's like, you have to do it against your own will first. Yeah. He's like, then you get excited about it, which is true because when I originally started working out and dieting, like I didn't really get into it until I'd already lost 10 pounds, and I was like, oh, this is actually working. Who'd have thought? If I stop eating junk food and working out a little, I can actually get thinner.
No, that's facts. That's facts. All right. Well,
it always sucks when you eat your way out of your wardrobe. Like start buying new clothes. Oh,
no, I've been there.
That's a disappointment for me. That's when I go, okay, time to do something because I don't want to spend a few $100s on new clothes.
And believe it or not, since everybody's on their health kick and weight loss journey, it affects you going downgrade as well. Like when you lose the weight, you know, you got to buy new clothes. So if you're going to buy, what I'm saying is, if you're going to buy new clothes because of your weight, at least let it be
because you got thinner.
In whatever the right direction is that you want. Because some people may already be thin who's listening and want to get thicker, whatever. But just make sure you're going in the right direction.
Well, if they want to get thicker, they can have some of mine.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm doing great. I'm doing wonderful. I'm blessed. I'm always good. You know, I have no complaints. I thank God every day for my life. Thank God every day for me being me. I wouldn't want to be anybody else. You know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
You want to be somebody else?
No.
I would.
Who would you want to be?
I don't know. Tom Hanks.
You want to be like the famous, just have his fame or whatever, and be him as for that, or you want everything that transpired in his life? Like,
no, honestly, I just want his money.
Okay.
You can keep the fame, so I'll trade that out. I just want to be some rich anonymous dude.
Become a voice actor. Seriously.
No, I've heard that. I've heard the voice acting thing. I actually have a voice that lends to it too, so I probably should.
Seth MacFarlane himself said like he could walk. He walks around like all the time. People have no idea who he is.
Well, he's still famous though.
But that's what I'm saying. And he's on the more famous, more notable face side of things, and he's still like he said, like when he goes to restaurants, like he'll have to like actually do the voice for people to even know like, oh, that's him. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
What
like
did he do?
He did all the Family Guy and all the stuff from there.
Well, he created Family Guy, but he does the voice of Brian, Peter, and Stewie.
And if you would have did the voice to me, I still would have been like, "Ew, who are you?" Because I watched you. Like,
you'd have been better off saying like Hank Azaria, who is he's one of the guys on The Simpsons who does the voices on The Simpsons.
I didn't watch The Simpsons either growing up.
Well, there you go. I'm sorry that you have been sheltered.
I mean, my parents wouldn't let us watch Rugrats either. They said that Angelica was disrespectful, and
oh wow,
they did not want us to be imitating Sister Angelica. So
we weren't allowed to watch the Smurfs. Yeah,
wow.
because the Smurfs had magic, and any magic that doesn't come from God is coming from the devil. So.
Well, when I was young, I just wasn't allowed to watch Martin. Because I was halted from watching it because I was watching it, but then my parents was like, you know, this is a little too mature for your age. we need to reel this back in.
Actually, I just mentioned that to my dad when I saw him last because we were talking about that, and I was like, looking back, you wouldn't let us watch the Smurfs, and yet every week we'd all sit down together and watch the Cosby Show. So, what?
Wow.
I said, y'all were way off the mark.
This guy.
We did. It was a family thing.
I think it was it probably was the reverse. Maybe the Smurfs were good people, but the show just was magic. But then with the Cosby,
it's made up. It's
the show. But that's what I'm saying. So with the Cosby, the show was good, but then he just was bad.
Oh yeah. No, I thought that was funny. They wouldn't let us watch A Different World when that started. They were like, "No, that's too mature for you."
Gotcha. I feel that. It was pretty much just like grown shit. We've already talked about this, and I never was like really searching for it, so it wasn't that big of a deal to me. But you know, Bishop Paul preached about that whole Harry Potter shit, Janessa.
So crazy.
You don't remember that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, this was I'm
a conference.
Well, no. This was like on TV. Like it was like a sermon he had preached, and it came on TV. And of course, of course we gonna know about it because it's it's Bishop Paul. It's all it's the pipeline for not only full gospel, but his freaking brother is our pat. You know what I'm saying? So of course it's gonna. Now Bishop didn't bring this up per se, like on the pulpit. This was just, but it got brought up within the church, is what I'm saying. Like Bishop didn't like preach against it or whatever, but when Bishop Paul did, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I know my mom kind of was like on that, but like I said, I wasn't really checking for Harry Potter at the time anyway, so I wasn't really like scarred or anything, but
that whole Harry Potter thing is nonsense.
I mean,
for the same reason as the Smurfs. All right, it's fictional. It's made by man,
Well,
Now, if a guy walks up to me on the street and says blibbity blobbity blue and whatever and does real magic, yeah, sure, then you can call it wicked, but it was written by a homeless woman. Like, it's not real. It's a ghost story.
Gotcha. So the people who are just say against it, do they think that magic is real? Then is that why they're trying to stop it? Because your perspective is it isn't real. So do they think that it actually is real?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't presume to know what they think about something, but I'll tell you what. If I have a kid and that kid wants to read, I'm not stopping him. I don't care what it is. Read as long as you're reading, I think it's a great thing. The kid's reading anything, good for them in this day and age.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, now that I think about it, just going back to magic real quick, I think, because I always thought my whole life, like, oh man, magic ain't real. But I think actually magic is real, because I think the point of magic is for it to be an illusion. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to make it appear like something's happening, but it's something totally different, which is what makes it, I guess, real. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to it being fake is what makes it real.
So, by that estimation, would those same people say have a problem if a magician at a kid's birthday party?
And most of them probably wouldn't. That's the point. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I get you. Trust me.
That's not real.
Yeah. I
neither is Harry Potter.
I get you. Trust me. I'm totally clear on what you're saying. But
I know it's frustrating to think about.
Yeah. No, I got you. All right. Well, I guess we're gonna have to go with this topic anyways. It was supposed to be for the four of us, but of course, here we are. So,
we can keep going with magic. Janessa looked like she had something to say.
I don't know enough about magic. Anybody been in Magic City? Just out of curiosity.
Magic City.
Yeah.
No, I haven't been to Magic City, but I've been to other places.
Which Magic City are you talking about?
In Atlanta.
Which city is that?
Magic City. Okay. Does attending the same church stunt your growth? Meaning, you grew up in a church. You've been in that church your whole life. You're now an adult. You still go to that same church. And the way this question was presented to me was even more specifically if that church is just say teaching and ideology is pretty much, it remains the same. Not so much as far as like, oh, they don't use social media to promote their stuff, but I'm saying as far as like the teaching and the thinking or whatever it is they got going on. Can that stunt your growth or does that actually help your growth, I guess, with that level of just say consistency?
I feel like it stunts your growth. I think that's pretty obvious. If you cook the same 5 meals every week to eat, you're saying, does that stunt your growth as like a cook? Yeah, of course it does. If you go to the same place and buy the same clothes every week, does that stunt your fashion sense? Of course it does. To grow, you have to experience new things. That's my initial response, but I am thinking about it.
Is your growth being just say stunted in consistency? Is that better or worse than just say it possibly getting stunted by moving somewhere else? Because like you go somewhere else, and yeah, you may just say grow as a Christian from, you know, even if it was a bad experience, because you may have learned something that you didn't know before. But are you actually just say growing spiritually? Like, do you have to move in order for it to be a change, or can you affect change right where you are in order to then grow more? Because eventually, I mean, even if just say if you grow up in a church, most of the you know, the pastors or whatever, God forbid anytime soon, but you know, will eventually die or retire or whatever the case may be. So then you're gonna then be dealing with, you know, new people in those positions. You know what I'm saying? Which then growth.
Yeah, but if they go too
Happen.
far if they go too far outside of what has already been established, you know, you're going to lose a lot of members. You might lose the church. You know, so.
Oh yeah, I mean, that is a risk.
Yeah. So
I
I mean, there is something to be said for people just keeping up the status quo. That's very comforting. So you might grow in like your dedication to your particular church because of that. People like to feel safe and comforted, and you know, go and hear the same things, and you know. But I don't think it makes you grow.
I was gonna say, I think the Bible doesn't change. Like the message that's being taught is not changing. You know, the Bible says I'm gonna find it, but you know, God is the same the yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So that's not going to change. But I think the way we present the message is what kind of evolves over time. If you know, there once was a time in the Black church where like my mom used to tell me, "Oh Happy Day," was like seen as a radical song. You know, having more instruments than just a piano was seen as just out there. If we were singing the same "Oh Happy Day" and couldn't have all the things we had today, probably musically, like probably a lot of people who have been reached through the Kirk Franklins and the J Moss and the John P. Keys and you know all these amazing people who come down the line, you know, maybe not have had that same experience. So I think the way we present the Bible, the way we present God changes over time, but not necessarily the message. And I think one way that churches can kind of stay in the loop, I know at our church, you can only be in a leadership position for 2 years in theory. And that's
in theory.
In theory, because you know I've been the president of the young adult choir for a good 7 years now. But that's a whole nother situation.
But are you the only one, or is this like does that work for everybody as well? Because like it could be a pastor's daughter thing, or
well, that's a whole nother story. I wanted to pass it off to somebody else for this reason. So the reason we do it is that there's always fresh ideas. Like if you just have the same person in the same leadership positions, you know, the ideas may get stale, or it might just be the same ideas time and time again. In my case, finding a replacement has been challenging, and then the pandemic hit, and so that's a whole nother situation. But I think that's one way, is keeping fresh ideas by rotating some of your leadership positions. And then I also think bringing in people. So like revivals, that gives an opportunity to hear, we're teaching from the same Bible, but a different perspective, maybe. Revivals or just conferences, or even in today's world, you know, you can watch services online. You can physically go to your own church.
Right.
Come home at noon and then go watch somebody in California, and maybe at 6 o'clock you might watch somebody in New York, and you know what I'm saying? So I definitely think there are ways to evolve as the world evolves in church. But
Mhm.
does it necessarily stunt your growth? I think it stunts your growth when it's the same message, the same way, this all the time. Like there's
Mhm.
no evolution in that front.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
that's when you start getting a little stunted. Yeah.
I mean, I think kind of to your point as far as like, well, I don't even say your point, but your position as far as like, having a role and not being able to pass it on or whatever. But even just you having a role, like, growing up in church, there's some kids, who may always be doing something. Like my mom always had us doing something, but even for people who may have not always done something, when they get older, they may start doing something. If they grow up in that same church under that same leadership, whatever, they may eventually get older and be like, you know what, I should start like whatever, participating. I should start serving, whatever the case may be. And to me, I mean, that sounds like growth. You feel what I'm saying? Like being just say like a youth usher growing up, but then you get older and now you just say the church secretary or you the what, I don't know, whatever. You know what I'm saying? You become something, just say at a with more responsibility, like that. Growing up in that same church or whatever, like that's growth. Now, does that necessarily happen for everybody? No, because obviously it's not that many positions, but it can happen in different ways. Like when you're young, you'll be in the youth ministry, but then all of a sudden, just say you get older and you get married, now you're in a couples ministry, or if you older and you single, you in the singles ministry, and you're in young adult ministry, and now you're in the young adult choir, whatever the case may be. Now you join the mass choir from the children's choir. Like all of these are examples of growth. You know what I'm saying? In some form or fashion. You feel what I'm saying? Like, so I think there is something there, like in the consistency of being a part of, a ministry, especially if it's one that you can actually be involved with. You know what I'm saying? And then, I mean, most churches, like, you can be involved with. So even if it's a big church or a small church, like if there's ministries or whatever, like people will let you, like if you want to join that ministry, like they'll let you join for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Like I haven't really seen, anybody like shun somebody away from doing something they actually want to do. Like, you want to come dance? Yeah, join us. Whatever. You want to come, whatever. So, yeah. But like I said, to me, I think that's growth. So I think there is something there in the consistency. Yeah, of course, there is some growth that can happen with change, but there, like I said, there's something there even with the consistency.
Absolutely. I think one of the challenges that some churches have, they might have like a good youth ministry, but then like there's no young adult ministry. And so what typically happens is after everybody gets to high school, 12th grade, and graduate, there's nothing really to hold them there. The next ministry might be the women's ministry, or I know at my church for the singles ministry, it includes anybody from like 18 to 99. You know what I'm saying? And my church is an older church, so majority of the singles are over 50. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think sometimes that can be tricky.
Most of the singles are over 50.
Yeah. There's no
that
real
just hit me.
young singles at my dad's church. They're not.
Damn, that just hit me.
So I think that's may play into some people's decision to, change churches after a certain time period. It's just not necessarily that the church, is horrible, and it just might be they don't have the ministries or the things to meet your personal needs sometimes. And I don't know, I don't know what the resolve to that, because maybe that church doesn't have, like you said, the people to be on those ministries. Like, hey, if you want to do it, great, we would love for you to be the minister of the young adult ministry. But then there's not always people to fulfill those positions too. So there's a variety of reasons, I think, why some churches you're able to grow and matriculate over the years, over your lifetime. And then maybe other churches you might can go for a certain amount of time, and then you might have to kind of pivot and find a new place to go.
Hey y'all, sorry to interrupt, but we have a few church announcements. Follow us on Instagram at The Worst Ones PK. New content coming soon. We also have a TikTok at The Worst Ones PK. No content yet, but continue to check us out. If you want to, when you listen to our podcast, you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Just make sure you type in The Worst Ones Podcast and you'll find us. And when you get there, make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe, and you share. Thank you to our 500,422 followers. We love you so much. Now, back to the show.
To me, it's not necessarily, what they have to offer per se, as much as it is the interpretation. Because, like you said, Janessa, the Bible doesn't change, but interpretations do. So hearing somebody else's point of view on a story you've heard or a theme you've heard so many times over sometimes can revitalize, that message for you in a different way. So that's why I'm saying it's always good to get out and hear other people's point of view. Yeah.
But should that just be hearing other people's point of view to Janessa's point earlier about you can get out of church and then watch somebody else online, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's live stream or even if it's pre-recorded, but they posted recently from their most recent service or sermon or whatever. Like, can you not just say get that experience or whatever that way, but yet, still remain in the church that you've been in and, continue to build or whatever the case may be?
Rudy, that's like a big question today, honestly. I think that a lot of people are trying to figure out because the pandemic showed us a different way of doing church. Kind of like what Kellie was saying last week about how you never miss Sunday. I've said it. I grew up where you didn't miss Sunday unless you were sick or if you were out of town. Those were like the only two reasons you could watch somebody's TV show. But if you were able-bodied and you was in town, you were supposed to be at church on Sunday. But then we come to the pandemic where literally everybody was doing some form of virtual church, not just for like a couple Sundays, but for 2 years. Sometimes even, some people are still doing it now. And so now, kind of to your point, Terry, like, it's a new interpretation of how we do church. Can you go to only online and still, be ministered to and filled with the Holy Ghost and receive a word from God? Well, the past 2 years told us, yeah. So now when, we're doing this hybrid, you can be in the sanctuary, come to church, or be online, or you can now go to your own church and then also go watch 10 other churches if you want to. Is that okay? I'm inclined to say yes. If
well, why wouldn't it be?
The correct word is being ministered to and being spoken to. But I think using older ideologies, like you were a part of one church, you participated in that church ministry, like you went to their services, you paid your tithes to them only. So it's definitely different now. And I don't know what other people think. Like I said, I think it's all right, but I am kind of curious maybe what some of these more traditional or older people, what they think. They might be like, oh, this is not it. I don't know. And
you talking about specifically what they think in reference to the internet stuff, like like just watching it from home type thing.
Yeah, watching it from home in general. Like if you still go to your same church that you've gone to all your life, but now you just fully watch it at home.
Right.
Or you watch your church at home or you physically go to your church, but then you also faithfully watch 5 other churches, too.
Right.
To the point where you're invested to a certain extent. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Right. I mean, so I don't know how the old people would feel, but I think all of those things are kind of like situational, and it depends on why you're doing what you're doing. Like, are you watching? Because I know people who physically like go like just say church hop, if you will, because they like the praise and worship at one church, but they like the preaching at another church. So they'll go early to one church, do the praise and worship, then they'll leave and make it to the other church by the time the sermon starts.
They create their own church
Right.
experience.
Right. So
Wow.
what I'm saying is, like, so if you are just say going to the same church you've been growing up in, and you are going home and watching 5 other services or sermons, are you watching it because you don't feel fulfilled, or are you watching it, to Terry's point, for the experience, just to hear different, whatever?
Well, I didn't say it like that.
Well, I'm saying
every pastor
let me hold on, but just let me
sermon.
no, I got you. Let me finish. So it just depends on what you're doing it for. You feel what I'm saying? So if you're man, I think I lost one point. All right, go ahead, Terry.
Well, I was saying that every pastor, every theologian in general interprets these words differently. So, when I'm saying it doesn't matter if you miss Sunday at your church and go somewhere else, I don't think it does. Just said I always wanted to hear that. But that's probably has something to do with, my upbringing, because, my dad had a church at a couple of points, and then other times he was more of an evangelist. They would go to other people's churches and speak. And hearing other people kind of opened my mind on that thing a little bit. But this is also the same guy that, when I got to my teenage years and started questioning the faith and other religions and this and that, he's also the guy that said, here, and he gave me a Torah, and he gave me a Quran, and he gave me a Jijing, and said, all right, go learn. He had no doubts in what he was saying. He's like, go ahead, go look, you'll be back.
Right.
Essentially. So to me, I think all knowledge is good, as long as it's done with the right motivations.
Right.
So I would always encourage people, try a different church, go for a week, see if you like it.
Right.
Maybe you'll like it better than the place you're going now. Maybe it'll reach you more.
What I was going to say too, Janessa, going back to the whole watching church online, it's kind of like we talked about last week too. Like when you're just say watching church from home, or even if you're working from home, or if you homeschool, like anything that you do from home, you have the advantage to do other shit while you're doing that. You know what I'm saying? If you're taking college online or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can do things that people who have to go to the classroom can't do. You feel what I'm saying? So I don't know what the answer is in reference to, is it more important to actually go inside the physical building, or as long as you're watching it, whatever, you know what I'm saying, and paying your tithes or whatever, I don't know, because I think even there's a balance to that. Like, are you watching it because you're in another city or state? Are you in that same city or state, but just prefer to watch it from home? But when you watch it from home, are you also just say participating in the other stuff? So like when they have, I don't know, a Christmas play at the church, you go watch it, or do you still watch it from home? Or when they have,
right,
the young adult ministry have a little outing or whatever, do you go? Or are you just watch it at home, nigga? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think all of that kind of stuff matters, especially if you're talking about you're a member of a church, because I do think that fellowship matters, but I don't know if it matters on Sunday in service. That's what I'm saying. Like, I know at some point it does, the interaction, but I don't know. I don't know how that works. I know it's preferred, especially if you're participating in the service. Like if I'm singing, playing an instrument, you know, preaching, whatever, like obviously I would prefer to do that to people that's physically there, as opposed to me having to imagine you hitting the like button or in the comments or whatever, you know what I'm saying, at the crib. But you know, but if I'm receiving it, I don't know if I have the answer in reference to actually having to go in or not. And that's whether you're visiting another church or not. Like even if you're wanting to get the experience from other churches from your home church, is it better to actually go into that church and experience it, or just watch it from online and then get the experience and then decide to just say switch churches or whatever the case may be? You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. I don't know at this point, to your point, Janessa, about what 2020 did. I don't know which one is necessarily necessary at this point.
Right. And on the flip side, I agree with you. So we come from a generation where we went to church every Sunday, right? Well, there's going to be a whole new generation who didn't. Literally, there's kids who are born in the middle of the pandemic who ain't never been to church in their life, but their parents may have been to church every day of every year of their life.
Right.
And so, what does church look like for this new generation? Because they might just be like, online is all I know, and I don't see nothing wrong with it. You know what I'm saying? So it's really kind of, again, to Terry's point, the whole just interpretation. Because I want to say it is in the Bible. It talks about like fellowship amongst Christians and doing things together, which is, I guess, what we do at church. But in this new age and this digital age, or whatever we're calling it, can you still get fellowship that the Bible talks about via Zoom? I don't know. Or, whatever the StreamYard or GoToMeetings or whatever the platforms people are using. Right. I don't know.
I mean, it sounds suspiciously like the argument's being made that the church is more important than the message. Because whether you go to a physical building or not, I don't think that really matters. Wherever the message finds you, that's where you go.
Well, should pastors just downgrade to a little studio and just record as opposed to even having a building at all?
Depends on what you're drawn to.
But I'm saying if just watching it from the crib, because the only point of having a building is for people to.
No, I get it.
To come there and whatever. So if we're not doing that, should you just not have a building? Just get you a little studio. You know what I'm saying? Record service live, whatever, and just do it that way.
What are you being called to do?
But I'm talking about based off of the response.
No, I get what you're saying, but it's going to be individualistic. Some people are called to go to foreign countries. Other people are called to, go to the church.
Right.
Same thing can be said here. What are you being called for?
But I'm saying, if you're called to downgrade to a studio or whatever like that, okay, that's one thing. But what I'm saying is, if just say if I have a church of 100 members, I'm just using a small number. I have a church of 100 members, and 99 of them decide they just gonna watch it from home. Should I at that point just say fuck it? I'm just not gonna have a bill. Why pay rent or mortgage or whatever it is I'm paying? Why do that? I can just set up a little studio in my other room at the house, whatever, in my garage or whatever. I have the praise team come in and sing. We'll do the whole shebang, and we won't have to worry about paying to have a building that people ain't gonna come to anyway. So what I'm saying is, should that be the response if something like that happens? Because everybody is now adjusting to the new age. I'm gonna watch it from home.
I think for some churches that might be the move. And I think that's for the churches that really are suffering. Because I think, little be said, or it's not often said, some of these big churches were the ones that were really struggling in the pandemic for that exact same reason. They have these huge campuses that require, tons of electricity and water and overhead just to run it.
Right.
And, all these people now all of a sudden weren't coming. People weren't tithing as much. Inflation and job security was high priority. And so a lot of those churches were put in tough situations. Now, whether or not they have downgraded or not, I think we're still in that time will tell kind of phase right now. Because the pandemic technically has not gone away. People are just, I guess, living their lives a little different. You might wear your mask, you might not. But does that mean people are going to come back to church and be tithing and giving like they were pre-pandemic? I don't know. Right. I don't know. It's just very interesting. We're living in, unprecedented times. Like, we really just don't know. But it might be. Honestly, for some churches, it might be.
But let me ask you this, Janessa. So I know the main question is remaining in the same church, just say, will that stunt your growth? But do you think watching church online will stunt your growth as opposed to being in service? Using the I guess parallel example of if you had to just say take classes online and only have access, just say, to email your teacher or whatever, or set up a Zoom meeting to be able to talk to them, as opposed to physically being able to ask questions, just say in class or whatever. Like, so do you think your growth can be stunted if somebody adjusted to strictly online, regardless of if they switch churches or not, or do you think you can still just say thrive?
It depends on who you are. If you can learn either way, then
I want to Janessa, go ahead.
I think it does depend on who you are. I think it depends on your learning style. I know for me, I need to be able to ask questions. Now, if you're only looking at Sunday, because remember, on Sunday when you're going to church, it's not like in the middle of the sermon, you're like, okay, so Pastor, on chapter 2, verses 3, when it says this, can you go back and clarify? Like, you're not doing that on Sunday. So I do think you can, if you're just talking about Sunday, possibly get the same message, the same level of understanding. I think for me, I do go to Bible study. I do talk to other people to get clarity. I talk to my own dad about it. So I know for me, I don't solely just do I'm not just a Sunday only person, if that makes sense. I listen to different sermons throughout the week. I'm asking people if I have questions. Okay, so can I get some background on this? Can you explain this to me? If I did not have access to that type of engagement with scholarly theologians, then I probably would be stunted. Because I wouldn't have the clarity and the understanding to grow. Right. I would just be operating in my own limited mind frame.
Right.
I don't know the context of what happened in this story in the Bible, so I'm just going to take it at face value. In reality, it might be something completely different.
Right.
So that's what I think about it.
Gotcha. Are you just as to say captivated with like the praise and worship and stuff when it's happening, or are you kind of like singing and mopping?
It just depends. I really do try to be engaged with the service when it's on. If it's on TV, sometimes, life be life and you got a lot to do today. And so if you got to throw some clothes in the washer while the praise team singing, that's what happens. But I do try to not be so busy, because I know for myself, I'm not really great at multitasking.
Right.
And so when I'm multitasking, something's not getting my full attention.
Right.
I'm just kind of like halfway in it. Oh, I might have heard it. And I don't feel like when I'm supposed to be spending time with a guy like that, I just need to be a little bit more focused. But like I said, I try not to do it too much where I'm just mopping the floor and singing every praise. Like, I try not to.
I was literally thinking about that same song when I was gonna say every phrase. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's I don't know. I mean,
now if it's like not service, Saturday morning and I'm cleaning up or whatever, and I got my gospel music in the background, like, I don't know. That might be different, but
is it? Well, let me even ask you this. So just say growth stunting aside, is it just say is it disrespectful in any way to just say do church from home and be doing the whole just say multitasking thing as opposed to giving it your undivided attention? And I'm not saying this to like, because I've done it. I'm not saying it's like I'm not in this boat. I'm just saying, like, but is it as opposed to just saying I'm gonna do it from home, but during this whatever hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever, I'm gonna be locked in here. You know what I'm saying?
Is it better to be locked in at home for a half an hour online watching something, or go to the church for an hour and fall asleep during the sermon?
Well, no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being home and multitasking while the sermon is on, as opposed to just sitting there being locked in.
Are you listening? Are you paying attention while you're doing other things? Because I can put a podcast on and clean the house and totally know everything. Yeah, and totally be into the podcast.
I'm not. But what I'm saying, I'm not saying that you can't do both. I'm asking, is it disrespectful to God to do both? Is what I'm saying, because you're basically treating, just say, his time, if you will, quote unquote, the same as you do a podcast or anybody else's time. So, like, is it acceptable in his eyes? Like, well, God, I mean, I was at church. I had it on the whole time while I was doing aerobics or whatever the fuck. You know what I'm saying?
Well.
And taking a shower and cooking breakfast.
But you're thinking about it in this noble, honoring way. I mean, you're forgetting the fact.
God's eyes.
I get it, but see, that's your problem. Stop trying to put yourself in God's position, right? Because you got to think about it the other way.
What do you mean?
Because why? Well, hang on. Listen. Why don't you listen first? What I'm saying is, you're saying, oh, is it disrespectful to God to be doing aerobics or cleaning the house while you're listening to a sermon? Yeah. It's not. You know how I know? Because you could be listening to a podcast. You could be listening to music. You could be doing something else, but you're choosing to do that. It goes back to the reading thing. As long as if you're a kid to me, as long as you're reading, I don't really care what you're reading. And I would like to think that God says, as long as you're giving me some of your attention, I'll take that, because you don't have to be doing that. I can appreciate that, but again, I don't
believe that though. I don't believe that, because for one, God has already spoken how jealous He is, and humans who are made in the likeness of His image definitely be tripping on that whole, like, especially like you in a relationship. Don't nobody want to be just say go out on a date and you on a date with them, but you also working, or you also looking at something and watching the game, whatever the case may be. Like, people are going to want, when there's a dedicated time for something, it's one thing if you're already multitasking throughout the rest of the day. But if you dedicate your time to something specific, like, people are going to want that attention. And I would imagine this jealous God, don't put no other God before me, I would imagine He would probably want the same, if not more.
That's Old Testament God. Old Testament God was the jealous, wrathful one.
This nigga.
Well, it is true. He was the jealous, wrathful one. After Christ came to earth, the whole different ballgame.
So he ain't jealous no more. You can put another guy before him.
I mean, I do. I've always said that I thought that was interesting, that that's the first commandment, is hold no other gods before me. Because here it is, you have the Bible saying there are other gods. Because how could there be if you don't? But that's a whole different subject.
It's not.
No.
It's not that there's not other gods. The fact is, what I'm asking is, since he's no longer jealous, can we put other guys before him, and he not true?
Well, again, do you repent at some point? Because
what do you mean? You just said he ain't gonna. You said he don't care. I'm asking.
Whoa! I didn't say that. I said he's not the jealous, vengeful God of the Old Testament.
I'm not talking about him being vengeful. I'm talking about him being jealous. Being jealous and being vengeful is two different things. What I'm saying is,
it's the same thing in the Bible.
It's not, because you don't have to get revenge just because you're jealous.
Okay. I'm just talking about the depictions of God from the Old Testament to the New Testament.
I understand
not the hyperbole of words we're going to have an argument about. But no, I think that God appreciates any praise or any affection or that you give him that's heartfelt. Because again, you don't have to. You have that choice now. You were given that choice. You can turn away or you can turn towards. And you're asking, well, did you turn enough? Well, that's not your problem to worry about. Be the person you think you should be. And as long as you believe that, he's going to see in that. He can see into the heart of you.
And what I'm saying is, if you give your all to something else, but when it's time to give him something and you give him half, I'm pretty sure he's going to have a problem with that. Not saying he's going to get revenge on you, not saying he's going to cast you to hell, but will he feel some type of way? Absolutely.
And I think also, like,
I don't think God feels some type of way. I don't think that's the way it works.
Another thing, like, to comparing the Old Testament to the New Testament, we're talking about the 10 Commandments. So it says, thou shalt not kill. Just because we're in the New Testament, it does not mean you can kill now. Like,
nobody said that.
Rules haven't changed. So the first, as you were saying, Exodus 20:3 says, you shall not have any other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord, your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of their parents to the third and fourth generation of those around me, blah, 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 blah. So, it goes on, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. So it doesn't change the fact that you're not supposed to have another God before him. And to your point, Rudy, like, if you're giving 100% to something else, but then when it comes to spending time with God, you're only giving him 10%. I agree. He probably would feel like you are giving your 100% to something else that's not me.
I could say that about everyone. I could say that about everyone in America that hasn't cast off all their worldly possessions to the poor and served God only and specifically for their entire lives. You could say that about anyone, literally anyone, the holiest person you know.
Maybe we're all just doing it wrong then.
No, I'm just saying if you're going to go to that level and that extreme about it, but just remember the difference between, and God didn't just change his mind between the Old Testament and the New Testament. You have a path to paradise because he changed from the Old Testament to the New Testament, because there was none before that. Christ went to hell to free those who were bound in hell for a reason.
I think the only thing that changed was the forgiveness that gave us the access. I don't know if it was necessarily the rules changed. I just think it's just the breaking of the rules and the way you get forgiven was what changed.
Well, the way that I understand it is God was jealous and wrathful in the Old Testament, but then took on a more loving and kind attitude towards human beings in the New Testament. That's the way that I was taught.
That's what's up.
And I don't see a kind and loving God getting mad at you because you did aerobics while you listened to a sermon. I see it through the eyes of love, which is like, hey, thanks for listening to me while you did your aerobics instead of listening to Hot Jams or, the Joe Rogan podcast or something. Because you had choices,
And I strongly disagree.
Okay. That's perfectly acceptable.
Like not even Planet Fitness strong, like a real gym, like strong.
Okay. Okay. That's fine.
All right. Anyway,
Then why even bother? That's my point. Why even bother? You're never going to make him happy unless you throw off all your worldly possessions and serve God only for all your days. By the metric you're setting, there is no pleasing God.
I didn't set any metric.
You actually did.
I didn't know. I didn't. I'm just saying the metric that he said. I didn't say anything.
I would be careful about speaking for God.
Well, you just did.
No, I said what I think.
I'm saying what I think.
Okay, all right. You said he set the metric, and I was like,
but I'm saying, I'm saying, well, you're saying I said I didn't set any metric is what I'm saying. I'm going off the metric that I read in the Bible. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. That's the metric that I'm going off. It's not a metric that I said like, okay, these are the standards that.
Well, then, in your opinion, what is the level that God is now happy with you? How much of your attention must you pay to him before he's satisfied?
I don't know as far as like a specific time frame. I'm just saying that if you are setting aside a time to, dedicate it to God, you know what I'm saying? Like, because setting aside it to Joe Rogan or somebody else, like, I mean, they're humans. Like, who gives a fuck about them? I'm talking about, like, if you're setting it aside to God, it's like, okay, out of respect for this entity that is completely responsible for me and everything else even existing, let alone whatever else. It's like, okay, I would maybe just get. I mean, it's not like I'm doing it for 64 months straight. Like you're talking about. I'm talking about. When I say
I think we misunderstood each other.
But when I'm saying 64 months straight, I'm not even talking about like every Sunday 64 months. I'm talking about like it's not like you have to do it for every day of the year for 64 months straight. You're talking about like an hour, 2 hours, whatever. Like you can stop whatever it is that you feel like you just got to do right then and there to give that time to God. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that if you, for whatever reason, on a particular Sunday have to multitask for whatever reason, he's going to be upset. But I think if you don't necessarily have to do something, like it'll probably be,
Okay, so yeah, I think we misunderstood each other because I'm thinking from the perspective of somebody who says like, "Hey, I got to clean the house today. I'm going to put a scripture on while I do it." That's the perspective I was coming from. I think you're coming from the perspective of I'm setting aside time to watch
correct.
I'm setting aside time to watch church, and then I go, oh, well, I can do other stuff while I do that.
Correct.
So again, it comes back. He can see in your heart. He knows where your motivation.
Right. No, right. I got all that, but I'm saying we were already talking about in reference to the whole switch of no longer attending your home church in person, but then attending.
No, I get it
from home. So that's what I'm saying. Like if you're at home, but you're then multitasking. Because if you're at church, you're not going to multitask. Right. You know what I'm saying? But if you're at home, you're more than likely going to multitask. And I'm saying if you make it an every week thing, that's one time. It's one thing if you like, okay, I'm gonna stay home this week, watch it because I also got to do homework or whatever. But it's a whole nother thing if you say, okay, I'm gonna be full time from home just so I can also, bullshit while it's on. Like I think that's kind of fucked.
I think a lot of people they miss the forest for the trees when it comes to the message about what it takes, because honestly, again, I think you can be perfect in God's eyes and never step foot in a church, but that's just me.
Right. Yeah, it's not about that. It's not about whether you have to step foot in the church to be perfect in God's eyes. It's about you choosing to be at home instead of attending church like you normally do, and then while at home,
I get it.
You're bullshit.
I get what you're saying, but again, I think a lot of people get hung up on the rules of religion and what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do and this and that. No, man, it's just in here. That's it. Try to keep the world from perverting what's in here. You know. I don't know. It's just my opinion. You know.
All right.
Mm.
Rihanna.
Well, you can find me at JRihanna_. We have fun over there. And it's not private. Like Sister Kellie. Where you can find her at Princess Kels 51, and it is private.
You can't say Kellie, yeah. I guess you can find her, but you can't reach her.
You can try and find her.
Can we find you, Terry?
I mean, literally, like you.
Oh yeah, Terry Wayne Comedy. Sorry, I thought we were doing Kelly's.
She literally just did.
Okay, all right. I didn't see it pop up. Sorry. Yeah, at Terry Wayne Comedy on all social media platforms. I will not be here next week, but if you want to get my book, it's on Amazon. Unclaimed Ashes.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, Unclaimed Ashes on set.
All right. Well, that was wonderful. It's good seeing you guys again. We appreciate all you guys who listen each and every week and watch each and every week. And yeah, man, we will see you next week. It'll be 3 weeks.
When I see you in 2 weeks, I will have some big news.
Oh, exciting.
I can't say it now, but it will be big news.
Well, we understood that when you said in 2 weeks, there.
Okay.
All right. Well, we love you guys. God bless you. The doors of the church are open, all that. All right. We the worst ones.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top